All right, let's talk about Christian McCaffrey heading into the Super Bowl. He's definitely a guy that we have to talk a lot about. One of the better running backs, if not the best running back in football. And I think a play like this is an interesting one to talk about. So, it's going to be again, San Francisco does a lot of unique things, right? They're having both their right guard and right tackle pull over to the offense's left. It's a lot of what they do. They don't make it clear who you're supposed to be going up against at the line of scrimmage. If you're a defender, it's definitely something that, you might get caught by surprise as to who it is who's actually supposed to be blocking you. Watch when this play begins. You see that they do it so well. Again, there's so many different factors for the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, I think one underrated aspect is having guys like George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk who can both run routes well, but also can both be great run blockers. Essentially gives you 2 extra offensive linemen on some of these plays. But right here, you see that, okay, I've circled a Green Bay defender. And what you have to do is you're going to have to find guys to win one-on-one matchups if you're Kansas City. You're going to have to be able to, get a hand on McCaffrey. Here, that's kind of what happens. Although McCaffrey gets out of that initial contact, that gives time for Campbell to actually go over and make the tackle. So that's kind of what you have to do, right? I know it seems kind of obvious, but yes, that is, I think, a large part what this is going to come down to is, can you get guys to be able to win their one-on-one matchup and slow down McCaffrey? And even this run, which was a good run, in my opinion, if you're Kansas City, you have to kind of go into this game with being okay with something like that. The way that I view this, 49ers run offense is like, yeah, it's going to get yards. And the reality is, if they're getting, 5 yards on seemingly every play, you can still live with that because there will be eventually, holding penalties. You will get one mix up. It's hard to go an entire length of the field doing that. What you don't want is the explosive plays. Going over to something like this, you might be wondering, well, is it possible for you to stop Christian McCaffrey? And the answer is, of course, yeah. It's possible. Watch what Devontae Wyatt is going to do on this one. Right when this play begins, you see him kind of create contact with, a 55 right there for the San Francisco 49ers. This is something that, there will be opportunities for this stuff. That's John Feliciano, who's a really good run blocker, but still, you'll have matchups where you can maybe, again, especially if guys have to kind of quickly get somewhere else, maybe you have a little bit of time to get the hand placement you want. Watch Wyatt shove him to the side, and he's able to get over and get to McCaffrey. Again, you might need some players to make good plays, but you can't help but think about, Chris Jones, a player who could potentially do something like that. There is one other aspect to this, though. You have to also make the tackle. On this one, McCaffrey's able to get out of it and still turn it into a positive play. Again, you'll take that if you're the Packers on that one, make it a 3rd down and 5 instead of a 2nd down and 10. Granted, they gave up a touchdown on the next play, but still, you at least you want those opportunities. You want as many 3rd down opportunities as possible if you're a defense. So can the Chiefs get opportunities to have guys who can win? Well, I'm going to be honest. It's probably going to be a lot of Chris Jones if they are going to do it. This chart right here is going to be the 49ers offensive line on the bottom of the screen versus the Chiefs defensive line on the top of the screen. And listen, I'm not saying there aren't players for Kansas City that can come through. Those are their kind of 4 projected starters, but of course, there's more than just 4 starters. I think Charles Omenihu has had a decent season for the Chiefs. He's not listed on there. There's other guys, right? And while you might see some not great PFF grades for the 49ers offensive line, like Banks, Brendel, even McKivitz, none of those guys were particularly great. A lot of that is due to pass blocking. Their run blocking is actually still all pretty good. So they have several players who can play well. But another aspect for McCaffrey is, forget about the running game for a second. Let's just talk about what he can do in other aspects. Something like this. Just a halfback screen, although it's kind of almost like a wide receiver screen in that he's running out towards the bottom of the screen here. And watch how when this play begins, it doesn't really work out too well. I mean, McCaffrey he catches the football, but you see how many Green Bay players are right in front of him. This is the other aspect that makes the 49ers so difficult, is yes, they run block well. Yes, they block on the outside well. You're not going to do it every single time, right? But even when they don't, block things well, like what they're not doing right here, look at McCaffrey. I mean, this is about as good of a 4-yard reception as you're ever going to see. I believe that was actually 5-yard reception as you'll ever see. This is just something you're going to have to really pay attention to if you're Kansas City. I mean, this is what McCaffrey is capable of doing. Something like this, another one where, again, the play itself is a nothing play. Like, McCaffrey's route is just, hey, go towards the flat. If nothing's open downfield, we'll just flip it to you and pick up a few yards. Look at how when Purdy takes the snap, that's what he's going to do. He's going to flip it to Christian McCaffrey, who right here, C.J. Gardner-Johnson in position. Again, it's a nothing play. We'll watch how McCaffrey gets around him, also runs by Jack Campbell. Paused it right here just due to, copyright reasons, have to let it sit for a second, but now we'll keep playing, and you see that, he turns that into a 25-yard, actually a 28-yard pickup. That's incredible stuff by McCaffrey, and again, this is what he's capable of. Don't take anything for granted. Don't try to knock the ball out when you're tackling him. Focus on making the tackle. And also for the Chiefs, so here's another interesting aspect in all of this is, on this play, you see how many players are ready to try and make a tackle, ready to try and stop the run, definitely that's what they're paying attention to. I do wonder if this is what Kansas City is going to make a conscious effort to do against the 49ers. And sometimes the most value a running back can have is just the threat of the running back. You get, the defenders to move further in, and it gives you one-on-one matchups on the outside. Now, it was kind of a weird situation against the Ravens where the Chiefs actually played a decent amount of two safety deep coverages as well and were still able to come in and make plays. But against San Francisco, when you do this kind of coverage, when you are making sure you make a conscious effort to stop the run, well, that can help set things up, which, again, isn't exactly what we're talking about in this video, but is still an important note because it is sort of factored in. When I was doing research for this video, I was like, okay, well, I should try to find a game where Christian McCaffrey had a, not a great game, right? Well, if you look at his box score stats, most recent game is going to be at the top, furthest away of the season is going to be at the bottom. The number all the way towards the right is yards per carry. He hasn't really had very many bad games. His low yards per carry is 2.7 on the season. That's his worst game he's had, which isn't a good game, but that's his worst. Usually you get a lot worse than that. And to find a game where he's had, lower than 4 yards per carry, in fact, lower than 4.5 yards per carry, you have to go back to, Tampa Bay midway through the season. So, yes, there maybe are ways you can slow him down, but I certainly wouldn't bank on it. He's probably going to get his yards. So final predictions page here with the, everything. Again, if you don't know how this works, what I do here is it's really just a fun thing. Not meant to be taken seriously. This is just out of all the videos I make of Super Bowl preview stuff, I've kind of just created a long list of things to, and I give a plus or -5 for each team on certain things. You see, the 49ers are on quite the run right here. This is the 5th straight video I've given an edge to the 49ers. But again, it's different, right? Obviously, I'm going to make a video on Kyle Juszczyk soon. A fullback, even if that's +5, the most Mahomes can get is +5, right? So it's a meaningless thing other than for fun. But that being said, yeah, I do think Christian McCaffrey is an advantage here for the 49ers, obviously, and I'm talking specifically matchup-wise. I do think that Chris Jones is what keeps it from being worse than this for the Chiefs, but I kind of do trust San Francisco to be able to block the defensive linemen as, pretty well. I didn't talk about the linebackers, and the linebackers are also a plus for Kansas City, but yeah, that's where I have it for all of this. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.